What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So Eddie Hearn has responded to Andy Ruiz Jr. Social media rant about him not going to Saudi Arabia and fighting Anthony Joshua in a rematch for the titles. Andy Ruiz Jr. had this to say. He said, "There's no way I'm going to Saudi Arabia. That's not happening." He said that Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn are looking for excuses. Anthony Joshua is scared. This is why he's trying to force me to go fight in Saudi Arabia. The fight will happen on my terms. It's going to happen in the States, right? He said, "I'm not going to Saudi Arabia, point blank and period, regardless of what you heard and the reports that you heard." Well, Eddie Hearn has responded quickly, right? Eddie Hearn has trying to get ahead of this as fast as possible. Eddie Hearn goes to social media, to clarify things, so to speak, right? So here's what Eddie Hearn had to say, right? Eddie Hearn says this is what he had to say. Let's get into this, right? Man, the saga with this is interesting to say the very least, right? Here's what Eddie Hearn had to say. He said the contract for the rematch was signed prior to the first fight. So Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn are basing this off of, when they say that Andy Ruiz Jr. signed the contract, they're basing this off of the previous contract in the first fight, right? They're not saying that he signed for this fight. They're going based off of him signing the first go-round, not this fight, right? He hasn't signed for the rematch. They're basing it off of the premises that he signed to fight the first fight with the agreement for the rematch, right? He says the contract was signed prior to the first fight. This is what Eddie Hearn said. They are both signed at the same time. There is no other contract. So there is no other. He didn't sign the fight in Saudi Arabia, okay? He never signed the fight in Saudi Arabia. That never happened. You understand? So what Eddie Hearn keeps saying that Andy Ruiz Jr. signed for the rematch, he's talking about the previous contract before the first fight even took place, okay? So then he goes on to say, he says there is no other contract. So there was no new contract for Andy Ruiz to fight in Saudi Arabia. He never signed to fight in Saudi Arabia, okay? And then he goes on to say there are no conversation between the two teams about not doing the fight. I don't perceive a problem. So he's saying that they're not even in talks with Andy Ruiz Jr. They weren't in talks with Andy Ruiz Jr. to begin with, okay? Because as far as this Saudi Arabia goes, obviously they were in talks, but as far as Saudi Arabia goes, there weren't no conversation about this with Andy Ruiz Jr. Thus, the reason why Andy Ruiz Jr. was not at this perceived announcement for the fight, for the rematch, because he wasn't involved in it, okay? Here we go. So Eddie Hearn goes, they gave him the opportunity of a lifetime. He will have 100% to honor the contract, right? So he's saying that we gave him a opportunity of a lifetime, and he has to honor the contract. His choice is to have a legal battle that could put him out of boxing for years, or to defend his belts for a lot of money against guys he has already beaten. There isn't any doubt he will take the fight. Any messing around and Ruiz will lose his belts, and he don't want to do that. We expect the IBF, the WBA, and the WBO belts to be on the line. That's it, point blank and period. So Eddie Hearn is stating that if Andy Ruiz Jr. messes around, we will take legal obligations against him, right? He's stating that there's no doubt about it that he's going to have to take this fight, or he's going to lose his belts, and we're going to be in court. He says, defend the belts or legal battles are on the horizon. This is what Eddie Hearn said. So Eddie Hearn is trying to see. So this just goes to show that Eddie Hearn is trying to force Andy Ruiz Jr. to fight over in the UK or in Saudi Arabia, right? So there is no such thing as the Saudi Arabia fight being agreed upon, because Andy Ruiz Jr. never agreed upon that. He never agreed to it, right? Thus the reason why Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua were not at the press conference. Why? Because this entire situation was all based off Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua expecting Andy Ruiz Jr. to honor his previous contract before the first fight even took place. So Eddie Hearn saying that Andy Ruiz Jr. signed the first contract is all false. That never happened. Signed the contract to fight in Saudi Arabia. That never happened. He's basing it solely off of the fact that Andy Ruiz Jr. signed for the rematch. He never signed to fight in Saudi Arabia. So when Eddie Hearn is saying that Andy Ruiz Jr. agreed to fight in Saudi Arabia, that's false. That's not true. It didn't happen. He said it in his own. There is no other contract outside of the original contract before the first fight. So they didn't even give Andy Ruiz a second contract for the rematch. Andy Ruiz Jr. didn't sign for anything for a rematch. Period. I can't wait to see how this unfolds. So, like Andy Ruiz Jr. said, he dropped the anchor. He stopped the boat mid stream. The boat isn't moving, and he's not budging. And guess what? You see how Eddie Hearn is saying that there will be legal obligations and they will be going to court and things of that nature. Eddie Hearn don't want to do that either, because that means it drags it out for Anthony Joshua as well. It doesn't just drag it out for Andy Ruiz. It drags it out for Anthony Joshua as well. Right? Because while they're going to court, it could take years. That means the belts are up in limbo. Anthony Joshua, they're not going to strip him of the belt because he's legal. He's fighting it through court. So that means that Andy Ruiz Jr. will be held up, but Anthony Joshua will be held up as well. And Eddie Hearn don't want that either. Believe that. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Road. Make sure you like and share this video. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.